like we've been saying, LR are kind of just first place in that category in general, right? So if you're not getting a lead early on, it's going to be very difficult to try and, out macro and then subsequently out micro these guys after 20 minutes rather. And we've been seeing that because we've only gotten about 5 or 6 minutes of post mid-game gameplay from both of these games so far. We're into picking bans for what could potentially be the final game of the night, and LR booking their ticket to Stockholm.
Rumble already out. Cyan, Gragas, the usual for
Cho'Gath.
Rich Gang. There you go.
I
mean, we're running out of champions, tell me.
Yunara. Oh, it's Virus instead. So I'm thinking right here, if the Yunara doesn't get banned out by Reach Gang, I think it's pretty be winnable by LR. So it will get banned out. But now the Cho'Gath is open up and available if they want to play towards that.
Okay, but if they blind it, and by the hover, it seems like that might be the case. I really want to see something that can very aggressively punish this top lane pick, right? I'm talking about the lane matchup. Trundle, honestly, probably a very sound line as well, given what's been taken off of the board at this point in the series. But for sure, something that can punish it. Aatrox has a fine matchup. Definitely, one where he's going to have a lot of agency the first maybe couple of levels. Cho'Gath can definitely look to try and bully him, especially because Baus tends to play that Halo Blades, and Halo Blades E-trades very difficult to play around. But if Ozhan locks in the Trundle, this top lane 2v1 is an absolute nightmare, and there's very few picks that Belia can land on here where he can't be abused.
I feel like you look in the Trundle right here because the other prominent jungler is Xin Zhao, and Trundle does beat Xin Zhao on the 1v1. So I feel like not only do you pick that for the Cho'Gath, but also jokes on you because this Cho'Gath ain't building any armor, so again, jokes on you picking the Trundle into this Cho'Gath. So I really like if LA goes a different direction than this Xin Zhao right here and play a little bit more selfishly, which by hovering here, the Viego, I think the most selfish part is coming out, which I would like to see. I think he's been having a banging day so far. He's been playing really, really well, and seems like this particular game is going to be all about him.
Seems like it could be. I mean, yeah. I'm just kind of thinking now, where does Nemesis go, right? Syndra, Azir, gone. That is like the usual list of priorities. It's gonna be the Rise, so looking potentially to assist the side lanes, and that does give the Haste an opportunity, obviously, to match right here on 3. Annie, honestly, I kind of don't mind, but they would definitely need to veer on the side of something a little closer to a hyper carry on 4 for Kevo. Trying to think of what other options you could go towards. I mean, there's like artillery mages, I guess, but I'm not sure. I guess Hui half fits that, and then you get to match some of the early laning prowess, so I don't hate it. And right now, there's not really a lot of very consistent ways to reach a Hui. And if you find Alaric on something that can really clump the, the potential backline up here of LR, the potential for wombo combo gets really, really high. So again, looking at your Nautilus, your Leona, your traditional engages with reliable sources of engage to get things going for Rich Gang.
And I'm expecting 2 of those to be banned out here, at least from both of these teams. And you get the R4 right here from sort of Rich Gang. They're banning things like the Lucian, right? And that makes sense. You've got a very passive top side of the map for LR. You need something a little bit more dynamic to actually get that Viego involved in some way, shape, or form. So I do really like the Lucian ban right here. However, to me, that screams scaling from the side of Rich Gang. And I'm looking at like all the kind of scaling champions, aka the Jinxes of the world, that can actually sit behind a Hui and sort of use the artillery to their advantage.
Yeah, not going to be banning out supports for the time being. Maybe just saying that there's too many. I like that Jinx ban. To be honest, I kind of prefer it. I feel like, again, I want Kevo on something where he can have a bit of agency. With the way that the top side's set up, I wouldn't mind something that leans a little closer to the later game, but it just, again, it does make me a little bit concerned that Crownie could look to answer with something, again, that could look to punish. Something like a Jhin might be okay, because Cho'Gath is pretty killable when there's a Trundle in the game. So again, I would be looking maybe for a bit more setup here in general. They land on the Smolder. Now, I've not been a fan of Smolder, because typically, games have just been too hectic in the early game, but these early games have been so stompy that I'm concerned that Kevo is really going to be able to get to do anything. And then that also gives Jhin over to Crownie now, I think, which is almost like the likely lock-in. Tristana is also another angle you could look for.
And Alistar is available.
Alistar is there as well. I mean, you could look at something like a Braum and on 5, and I wouldn't mind that for Alaric, just simply because you're playing versus Viego. First kill is really important, and if you do have something like a Braum and a Trundle, it even potentially sets you up for something like a split map, and that can actually let Kevo lane. So we'll see what Alaric looks towards. There's the Alistar. Again, Alaric has picked the litter from the support pool, right? A lot of the engage tools are still in. It's about what he really wants in this spot.
Trouble, what's your feeling? I see the face. I want to get the voice behind that face.
I'm invisible pain, man. I mean, I really don't care. He locks in the Zac. Okay, he goes for something completely unconventional, whatever. I'm just in complete awe that we said, hey, your really strong part here is your early game, and you're looking in a Smolder way that want to play for 3-4 items, right? So, sure, Jamada has something to say about the Zac. So
yeah.
Look, this is an Alaric special. He did this last year. Whilst he was with Ruddy, it mostly looked good from memory. I'm sure Don Jake somewhere in the world is smiling at this lock-in, so I'm curious to see how it performs. I feel like into Alistar, it might not be too bad because Alistar goes in. Basically, you don't go in lane, you queue him when he goes in, and then you pull him back in, right? Or you basically wait for him to combo. You aren't really the proactive one unless you know Alistar's not around to stop the combo. So it is a bit of a special. Do I think it's good? We'll have to see, but it is definitely very creative.
I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, this could be the last.
Alistar, so
yeah. That's my fear, but this is their last chance. At least they're going comfortable with their champions, and this is it. I don't know, chat. I don't know. I know what you probably are leaning into, but do let us know on the chat. Vote on the team you think is going to win. Is it doomed, or is it a comeback coming in from Rich Gang? Regardless, if the Rats win, they're going to Sweden. Pick it up, casters. Talk about this. I don't know.
Look. They had to feel the force. They went with the Luke Skywalker pick. Red 5 was standing by. And in it, they decide to go with the Zac. Like, it's an Alaric special. It's been a pocket pick for a while. He hasn't really pulled it out this year, but back on Ruddy, it was nearly permanently banned against him. I hear what Jamada's saying about being defensive with it, but it's going to need to work out here, and it's going to need to be weird because, again, LR have been looking pretty good in these early games.
Yeah, I mean, they're bringing out the sauce, right? Alaric, he's bringing out the sauce. He could have easily Braumed it. I think Braum was open, and they could have picked into the Alistar with the composition that they do have. It would have been fine, but, you know, people pick Zac to punish immobile carries. And there is a Jhin on the enemy team. My only worry is if Zac ever leaps in like a team fight, he's just going to be headbutted away and interrupted on the leap. So if Reckless is on it, he can, you know, keep Zac from actually just playing the game. I'm a little bit worried about how Alaric actually pilots it, but he is the Zac main. Last time he locked it in was 2024 November. So it's been a little bit of a while. I'm excited to see how he does it, though. I really want to see if we can, you know, bowling will be fairly neutral, and the main focus of this game is going to be the mid-jungle 2v2, because there is setup for Velia and Nemesis, especially, to gank mid, as well as for Ozhan, and that's going to be really explosive, but just the early game down in bot side, I'm kind of curious how it pilots. It's probably completely boring, and it's not going to be anything like Jamada saying this.
Yeah, like I said, just cue Alistar when he goes in, I think, is what Jamada's suggesting. I see the value there. I think if you go in yourself, Alistar does what Alistar often does into engage sports, which is pulverize you out of your combo, headbutt you out of your combo, and you feel a bit silly. But you can use your stretching strikes to force people to give old warm hugs and kind of hate it. You know, force socialization, courtesy of Zac. Till that time, then we'll see how it goes. And Smolder, going for the scaling option. I worry maybe if the games go the way they have been, Smolder may never get the chance to come online, and they will need to really step up that early game, or things could get very tricky here.
Yeah, and I really would have liked to seen a different pick that secures early game prio with that R5, because then with mid and bot lane prio for Rich Gang, they could have maybe done some funky invade things with the Trundle. Yeah. I will be curious to see as to how Ozhan accelerates this early game through mid jungle, because I feel like he hasn't had the tools, but this game he has a little bit of setup now with the Zac CC that's, you know, it is possible to land in the early, or we have 2v2 gank with red buff right here onto Nemesis. Is this a flash pop?
They know that he's come down from Hicks. They had the ward on Raptors, so Nemesis is going to be aware. They can maybe pillar, but again, Nemesis is going to just get to walk away. The crushing maw is decent. Devastating fire, it's a little chunk, but doesn't really lead to all that much. I will note that the Velia didn't flinch. It's on his red buff already. It's going to be a lot slower clear from Ozhan on this Trundle, so we'll likely have to give up that bot side Scuttle Crab and maybe look top side, especially if Velia continues on the pace he's on. Absolutely.
I think good analysis there. I think well played by Los Ratones, warding that Wraith camp and playing accordingly for Nemesis. Doesn't die to that 3 camp potentially, as he knows there's potential with that fear into pillar. Matic's going to take a Halo Blades trade. This hurts, right? Halo Blades, Cho'Gath. Those 3 altars, they really do slap. And now with the slow clear from Trundle, Reckless is going to look for a gank as Velia's ready before him.
Headbutt Pole comes on doing, but Alaric already with the stretching stripes will make Crownie's life pretty tricky. And Reckless has had to leave by a slightly awkward path, so ends up giving Crownie a tough time as he loses half his HP bar there. Didn't have a pot in inventory, but hey, doesn't lead to all that much. There goes the Scuttle Crab. Velia might actually be able to take the Scuttle Crab and fight over the blue buff. Yeah, he can just at least go double.
I think it's a... Yeah, put a double crab in the bag. DeHaste might get ganked, though.
Boy. Slowed down. Spectrum will just wide. Great fear there from DeHaste, as it'll end up being a flash for flash from Nemesis and DeHaste.
Oh, that was so nice from Baus. He S-keyed so that the Q2 didn't land and then walked after it went, and he was inside the sweet spot. Sorry, I'm a sucker for really good micro, and Baus right there was at the Aatrox. You could tell he's so practiced against that matchup. Usually, Cho'Gath's hitbox is quite fat and chunky, right? So you get hit by these sweet spots off cooldown, but S-keying there, super, super clean, and that's double crab now for Velia. So really good early game already, avoiding ganks, not giving any counterplay to Rich Gang in this early game.
I was really worried there for a second. I was kind of interrupting because I saw Ozone turning up where Baus was, but Baus knows his timings well. Just gets that reset up. If it isn't interrupted by a pillar or anything, and gets back to base. We'll know that Ozone is around here, but hey, the wards were already down. It was likely going to be spotted out anyway. In comes the TP from Matix. And we kind of have another early game where Lost Ratones is just kind of grinding away, laning well, good micro moments as you were just shouting out there on that individual level. And all well and good. The only thing that is a little bit awkward really is the fact that maybe with some of those reset timings and the flash down on Nemesis, you could possibly punish there for a stretching strikes over the wall. So elastic slingshot stretching strikes to the Q. My day, it's been a little while since I've had to cast a Zac.
Yeah, they're not very common. I mean, usually you see into like a Jinx, but from the jungle, right? Like, not the support role.
Top lane as well, right? There was that little era where we had Zac top for a while, courtesy of the likes of Broken Blade.
Yeah, I think when they buffed Zac sustain top lane, he was pretty OP. Nemesis is going to look for a little bit of a chunk on entry. Oh, I think if he stayed inside that bush, there would be a face check potentially from DeHaste and Ozhan. We're not going to do that, and everyone shows, I think numbers are known here by Rich Gang, but ulti comes in. No flash to
He's not got a flash, he can only fit one person, the knockup comes on through. It's a beautiful trap, and Lost Ratones pounce with alacrity.
What a clever play, just bringing everyone up here, ulting, and like you said, he can only fear one person, punishing that flash cooldown. Really excellent stuff from Lost Ratones.
This is going to be a wonderful replay because they know where the Trundle is. They just spotted him, and so they just go, well, I guess we Realm Warp.
Realm Warp. Nemesis comes from the other side, chaining on the knockup with the snare. No room for error. Sorry, no room for outplay. Rather there for DeHaste, and that's game 2. 2 games in a row where DeHaste, it feels like, has just been punished in this early game on these mobile control mages.
But this time, Rich Gang, the early dragon, yeah, and it's an early-ish one as well. We've had a lot of early souls this game, and again, one of... Yeah.
Kind of good for Rich Gang. With the Smolder, like, typically you'd be losing early dragons and buying yourself more time to scale to 225. We haven't even mentioned that win con here for Kevo because it just feels like they've been losing. But this game, compared to last, they have more scaling on their side. They're not dependent on bursting and playing the mid game out very, very well. They can play to get to 225 and the win con there. So it's very, very ideal that they secure this early dragon as it buys them 5 more minutes. Bausy, though, doing his thing. I wonder how he'll use his tempo. Last time we saw him use a tempo by roaming to mid afterwards, and maybe he'll look to punish the flash, or the lack of flash of DeHaste.
Speaking of, oh, you just called it. It's now a 1v2 though, spiraling despair. Over comes Valley looking to get the ult on down. They will kill off the Cho'Gath, but the Heartbreaker allows a potential steal of the body, buying Tyler. Doesn't actually want to steal it too early here. Now has all of 9 abilities from Play to potentially use. We'll use the Molten Fissure initially. I'm not sure whether you needed to put out that little Tranquil Path, the Fleeting Current. Can maybe come over the Walker-matics here. Maybe fight this one out. Umbral dash over, but the stun to Ozan is tricky. Nemesis low. Needs to try to back away. Survives! Body stolen available. Matix has actually not got a flash or an ult to work with. Ends up being a 2-for-2 in the grand scheme of things as Velia. In the form of the Trundle is chomping away. I don't think Matix with his good sidesteps. DeHaste has respawned. And he's used that Fleeting Code to come back over. And Velia will say, look, I'm out. And Heartbreaker's over the wall.
I feel, yeah, Ozhan, he was level 5 in that fight, but look at this, proxying into having tempo to roam and punishing the flashes to DeHaste. Baus actually takes a full combo, and that's a one-shot, and DeHaste, but Velia, he possesses, and I think this pillar actually knocked Velia out of a Q1, and then here. Ozhan is level 5 on this Trundle. He doesn't have that much gas, and just before he's able to get a kill onto Nemesis, where he would have been able to get a Triumph proc and maybe continue going, he manages to fall. And that's another skirmish in the topside river that's LR favored, and that's going to convert. into a chomp onto the grubs for Baus and a stack for his feast, but also 3 grubs now and a neutral objective for LR. Now they can play the side lane extremely well with Ryze and his ults to side as well as overloading side lane. But look at this.
Okay, Elastic Slingshot in. Remember, Nemesis does not have the flash. He's burned a lot of cooldowns as a result of that. Trying to find the realm warp out. He gets out. He's ignited. It goes down. It's the smite.
The subjugate ignite was too much for him to live there. An excellent play. No ulti now for Ozan. Can he invade? Will Velia punish this?
Reckless goes on forward. He's got the Unbreakable Will rolling. Velia kind of low here, though. Needs to be a little bit wary as the Elastic Slingshot to Velia, who managed to Spectrum more out. The Severing Bolt lands. And Nemesis dies there. Nice punish from Rich Gang. Actually, a more competitive early game this time around.
And this is exactly what we wanted to see. More tools in the early game for Rich Gang, and they're using them extremely well, trying to contest camps, actually making good plays around the map right now, and punishing. Reckless thinks that maybe, you know, with the Jhin essentially semi-global with that ultimate, able to join the fight from very far away, that they actually can play if they chain CC with the flash engage from the Alistar. But it doesn't quite work out, and Rich Gang actually are able to walk away, and Dragon spawning in a minute 30 time. I think Rich Gang are actually very, very comfortable to be able to contest this. An item completed on the way. You have a fairly, you know, even-ish jungle matchup, as well as Kevo, who's decently comfortable, who can throw an ulti over the top of the fight. I'd like to see a contest here from Rich Gang.
I'm right there with you. I think it's very playable. And the other thing is, like, look, Alaric has still got his passive up. You tried to kill him, you tried to feast him, you tried to steal his body. You have to do it twice. It could be really annoying for the Viego, especially when a lot of the core of this composition is setting up for that first kill with the feast, with the resets for this Viego to then bounce around the rest of the fight with your chase from realm warps and curtain calls to deny space, you're running away. If you can't do that, can't get that first kill, particularly if you're trying to punish this Zac, things can get tricky, I feel, for Lost Ratones in this mid game in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And also remember, you're on the clock for the smolder stacks. So you really, really want to be paying attention to that and making sure that you're on track. I think I was talking to like this AD carrier, it's very, very high elo, and he was telling me 10 stacks per minute is usually, you know, what you want to be going for. But yeah, a little behind track if we're going off of those numbers. Off topic, actually. Did you see Leave Senna stacking?
Yeah, 113 stacks in 20 minutes on Senna. Post-nerf, I genuinely went to check patch notes because I thought that there'd been a change to allow Senna to stack souls faster. No,
just that was
really
ridiculous.
Insane soul stacking.
But not going to see quite that level of stacking as a team fight comes through. Velia might be picked here. That's a good bounce back.
Oh boy, he does get over the wall, will flash away from Smolder, comes summoning the mum. He just dies at Subjugate after the Spiraling Despair comes on down and they pick off another kill. That's good work for Rich Gang, and that'll be the Dragon as well. They're not just going to contest, they're going to win it.
You can tell Velia really wants to try and contest that because he has Kraken Slayer completed. It's such a big spike, and maybe they find a reset using that DPS, but they can't find anything. The range coming in from the way with the Severing Strike, the Severing Bolt rather, and the ultimate from the mom. Sorry, such a terrible name. From Smolder. Coming in over the top. It's just super, super hard for Velia to get in there and potentially try to set up a play. And Engage comes through now. Alaric again, this is going to be such a neutral lane, so I need to get excited for that.
Too much. That's a decent double pulverize. Gets chunked back, though, with the stretching strikes. Alaric is ignited, but I don't think he cares. Remember, he's still got his passive to work with. We'll flash on in to start Let's bouncing.
Alaric?
Crowny is just going to go down. And now Reckless going to get Alaric caught into the turret. Nemesis turned up with the realm warp. Baus is dead as well. You're right in the 1v1. Dehaste coming on up. Forces a flash out of Nemesis. There's going to be the passive down from Alaric, and they will get that kill eventually, but it ends up being a 2-for-1 in the grand scheme of things for Rich Gang.
Alaric asks, do you know Zac's support limits right here? And Crowny has no clue. Crowny gets absolutely assassinated by the Zac Flash R in. An incredible combo and a one-shot here. I mean, Zac base damages are super, super high, but that caught me off guard. An excellent play showing his knowledge of the pick, and that's why exactly, you know, backs against the wall. Game 3 could be the last game of your year before dropping down to lower bracket, right? Actually, I might be wrong there. But still, really excellent play.
So
what happens here?
He just takes turret aggro and gets pulled back by the Infernal Chains.
Yeah, the Proto Belt not going to quite get him out of there. Tower ramping shots and gets a run down. I think the worst part is Velia actually commits to trying to save Baus and can't get anything off of that and just has to retreat. This is not great. This is really not great. They're staring down a stacking, more heavy scaling composition for Rich Gang. And look at the R flash here from Alaric. Super, super good play. I mean, Ryze comes in. Nemesis isn't that fed, so the Q, the last overload, isn't going to actually kill in this combo. Look at that. Very, very low 40 health, maybe at best. They do get a kill onto Alaric, but Smolder lives. And in these fights, like, this is exactly what Smolder likes, right? Continuous small fights that don't really mean too much, so you can stack really, really quickly and be accelerated. And Kevo's probably quite happy in the scenario.
Yeah, he is. And on the other side, look, you've now got a Jhin with no flash or barrier, a Ryze with no flash, into a Zac. And again, the last time we were seeing Zac properly in pro play was when we were running things like Hwei mid. Go back, look back at some of those G2 games when they were doing, because wherever Zac lands, Hwei can follow so easily with the QW, with that severing bolt, and it is just auto hit, basically, and we're seeing this already. It's getting very tricky. If Alaric is feeling it, he pulls out the pocket pick for the first time in what feels like a year or nearly there, and is finding a much more convincing early game. It's only a couple hundred gold lead, but it is there for Lost Ratones. The problem is, we chatted about the scaling, and we chatted about the discipline from Lost Ratones. It's been great so far this series. This is more like what we had been used to seeing from them.
I mean, the reality is you're playing 4 short-range champions into a Smolder without that much threat on his on the backline. Right, Smolder's just going to be able to queue through all these champions consistently. The longest range threat is the Jhin, which can be body blocked. So I'm concerned for Lost Ratones. 2 dragons for Rich Gang means that they could essentially do nothing here for the longest time and just scale to 225 for free. Realm Warp to topside, though, on the side lane.
Trying to find the crushing more in a bit of a resist. Haste already flashed on that bot side play, will likely die, but the Spiraling Despair comes on forward. Velio though with a bit of a response until, of course, Ozan whacks him with a club. Nemesis, remember, no flash will go down as well. That makes it the 2-for-1. The Realm Warp play goes very wrong.
It does go wrong. I mean, you could see they're trying to find plays into side lane with the Ryze Realm Warp and maybe convert that into tower with the 3 grubs that they do have, but it just isn't there. Like, Nemesis is too far behind, Velio can't 1v2 in scenarios like that, and the Trundle comes in and cleans. And that's going to convert into a Rift Herald. As we go back into the replay right here, they're collapsing on the Immobile Control Mage, a classic move. It feels like this whole game plan from Lost Ratones has been to punish the Immobile Control Mages that the Haste likes to play, but Bonks come in for Ozan right here, and Matix with the TP to save the play as well. This top side is looking kind of dire.
It is, and that's a gold lead now for Rich Gang. They've gotten the early objectives. That will be the mark towards feats of strength. It's now whoever gets the first turret. And reminder, you've got a Trundle, you've got an Aatrox, you've got 3 grubs. You give anyone 30 seconds with a tower. If that, it will disappear.
Really will, with Triforce completed especially. I mean, I'm looking at that top tower. If Rich Gang wanted to, like you're saying, they could completely commit to taking top tier 1 and taking that tower right there with that Trundle, with that Triforce. I really think that's a viable macro move, and just give up and eliminate any variance because you outscale on contesting this dragon. But that's not what Alaric wants. Alaric has decided he wants to fight, and he's getting engaged on.
We'll try and throw down that Let's Bounce. We'll get the stretching strikes like die here. That's a good amount of CC, though.
Oh, my.
Should surely, but no! The shield! Courtesy of Hwei with that Tranquil Pool. Baus now being run down by Matix. Throws out a Rupture. And they won't be able to find too much more. Alaric gets away with it.
Look at the limits! He's so damn low off of the back of it, and actually managed to survive after getting the most beautiful E into ulti to break apart Lost Ratones right here. I mean, comboed that with the Mom from Kevo is just absolutely a mental amount. But like you said, the shielding, Matix trying to come in to steal. Rich Gang have decided we're not going to cross-map and try to scale. We're just going to fight right now. And Alaric is leading the charge.
Drop the Herald. They're going to try and play that one bot side. I think Nemesis should still get tier 1 turrets top, and that will actually end up being the first turret over to Lost Ratones. That's feat of strength as well. The problem is the bot side of the turret is going to go down. The Haste has to flash away from Baus, who's looking for the Feast combo. It is an AP Cho'Gath, so that is still quite a lot of damage to work with. Crowny lands a deadly first. Alaric is around though, and Baus not going to have the easiest time feasting that Zac, but still going to get out safely as he turns and delivers with a fair amount of Vorpal Spike damage. Turret secured. But LR get it first, despite the Herald, despite the grubs.
I'm getting really weird for I'm getting really worried for Lost Ratones right here, because when you play Ryze and TF and champs like this, you want to portal to side lane, meet these overloads players for your carry, who's potentially split pushing, but you really don't have anyone that could side lane that's strong. It feels like your win con's super thin right now, and just to outplay, Matix is going to win side against both champions as Nemesis tries his best.
Velio's being forced to run away through the Harrow path. There's a stretching strike on the Crowny from max range. Oh, Crowny, he's got no flash. He's got nowhere to go. We'll throw a bit of damage back on DT Haste. It doesn't matter. That's a kill going the way of Kevo.
And Matix, he's looking to escape after going topside. He's going to pop the World Ender and get
so fast.
Infernal Cinder to be able to get away right there. That's a lot of move speed. They can't find the engage.
Alaric gets over the wall with the elastic slow shock, a flash out as well. They get the realm warp. Now Baus is potentially in danger as DHaste throws out the spiraling despair. Remember, that's not a very tanky Cho'Gath. Infernal Chains will pull him back. Can't go for 2-4. Reckless finding the flash head, but Pulverize maybe looking for his own play. Devastating Fire, just go wide, but into the back and goes Alaric. They do feast down the way, but over comes Matix, who's looking to trade back as well. Reckless getting the double Pulverize, but is traded out to 1-for-1 there. But Baus is so damn low, it's quickly a 2-for-1. And now, Rich Gang, this is the team we were expecting to see more of. This was the team that was looking like potentially just the second best team in the league. This was the team you said could 3-0 loss Ratones.
Okay, let's not go that far anymore. I take that back, but this is exactly what we wanted to see, right? Just like you're saying. Is this what happens when you give Rich Gang tools to play in the early game? More proactivity, more CC, and less sitting back and farming. Especially for Ozan right now, but everyone else as well. Particularly Alaric. You know, I came today saying, I can't really remember Alaric's performances very well, but I'm not going to be forgetting this one anytime soon. The flash auto attack with the Q already on Reckless is going to cancel Velia's W right there with a dash forward. And then you just have, again, short-range champions running into Aatrox and running into Smolder. It's so incredibly hard to play. I feel like Rich Gang, they're just on pace to completely destroy this game, provided there's no tremendous int here. Rich Gang.
That might be a little bit of an int. They just lost their mid laner. Alaric went forwards, and that left him a long way away from this way.
Rise DPS and Atacon starting. Feast as well. I think that's going to be LR starting the Atacon. Will Rich Gang contest? They can play the 4v5. The Haste has no TP for when he spawns.
This gets interesting. Kerbo is strictly around. They might just give it up. They're going to play for the tier 1 mid and say, yeah, it's not that big a deal. Risky, but you are scaling well, and they don't want to fight the 4v5.
It makes sense. They don't want to play any kind of volatile fight 4v5 like you're saying, and then risk losing the summoners before the soul fight, right? You really don't want to lose Smolder's flash.
Look at these turrets.
And potentially give over a reset with a Smolder and so on. So that's a tier 1 and a tier 2 in mids, and for an Atacon trade, I think you take that if you're Rich Gang.
I wonder whether Matix might get that tier 2 bot side as well, but he wasn't quite as quick there, and the Realm Warp will deny that take as well. But it is still actually a fairly good trade, a 2-for-1 on that front. Feels pretty good. You're right, I maybe got a little overexcited.
This build is so hard to kill. When you look at Aatrox's build, this is like the tankiest but most threatening build that you could possibly do. Sundered Sky Sterak's is unbelievably hard to take down. And the main point of this is that the main point of this is that you need to get Viega resets, right? You need to be able to kill frontline and be able to burst people down. I mean, you have Feast, but that's a Sterak Sundered. I'm so concerned with how LR are going to play for resets here. Barring a potential just run down here from Ozan and getting one shot on the Trundle.
Yes, you've got Trundle with Sundered Sky, with Subjugate, and already got the Spirit Visage. You've got the passive on Alaric. You've got the Sundered Sky and the Sterak's on Matix. It's very hard to find that first kill onto someone valuable here, especially the diving targets who Velia is likely going to have access to. How are you going to get onto the Smolder all the way super regularly? Matix is going to be forced to ult here on the other side of the wall, and coming on through, he's in a 1v3.
Sterak Sundered, can he live?
Deadly Flourish, but he's got Sterak's and Sundered Sky. I think he could do quite a lot of work. Nemesis in the end flashes out. They do get the kill, and now actually it's Velia in the Aatrox's body. Alaric forced down into the cell division. DHaste is knocked up. Now he's in danger. Cranny with another Deadly Flourish. Also has to flash on out. And except you were saying without the potential big int, I think this is the big int. Oh, Rich Gang, not like this. Velia does go a little too deep and can't get Kerbo. The hype happens a bit too far, but it's still 3-for-1. And that's with the Dragon. That's a nice soul.
Yeah, that's a disaster. Just collapsing onto the Aatrox. Maybe Matix thought, you know, he could play the flank, because even if he gets collapsed on, he can buy enough time for the rest of Rich Gang to help him out, as he's so tanky with this build. But the Ignite's going to come through. The healing on the autos is going to be reduced. And the burst is actually there. They have the gas to get through with the Jhin ulti and the Rise DPS on top. Ozan doesn't make it in time, and the Alistar is there. You have no carries for Rich Gang, and that's a reset for Velia on top of it. So much DPS. Alaric can't get any value into the backline, and Jhin is untouched. Ideal situation, except for this death right here from Velia, which I believe was an overextension. Ozan, though, trying to make a pick onto Baus.
Yeah, going to try and get a fair amount of work there, but it's just not quite enough. It has to back away. It has to look at the damage numbers. Nemesis and Velia similarly putting out a lot of DPS there. My days, the overload started to come on through. Got the Titanic Hydra now done for this. It's actually behind. That's an interesting Realm Warp. 2v2 briefly. Good damage. Goodbye, DHaste. And that's the reset number 1. Can start to spam through those Sway abilities. The Grim Visage, the Crushing Maw, that Molten Fissure. A double for Velia, who has got those 2 items and begins to make them work for himself.
And it feels like Rich Gang are falling apart, and the only way that they can, with these overload plays and the ultimates, I don't think there's any other way that they can possibly lose. Getting picked off is the only way. If they were any kind of 5v5 situation, without getting picked off, they always win. I mean, they still have that 2-2-5 win condition, which Kevo is about to ding. That's 2-2-4 right there for the Smolder, but I really want to be careful here from Rich Gang. I mean, everything's still in their hands. Right, the win con for LR is fringe, but the gold is swinging back into their favor as it overtakes and actually goes towards Los Ratones right now by 1k. But again, Kevo is now spiking. So, have Rich Gang misplayed this mid to late game hard enough to the point where they can't carry with Kevo on his Smolder, or is it still playable? I'm inclined to believe that Kevo can still play this, especially once he completes the rapid fire cannon.
My problem, Adam, is that once you put those nameplates on, you remember how many times Los Ratones have been in this situation and finessed their way out of it. They have been so good at playing these macro moves later on, about making those overload plays, especially when it's someone like Nemesis, who has been so heads up, so vocal, so intricate in his way of playing the map. He's got those two items completed. He can be very scary. Yes, what have you got for me?
My only counterpoint here is, I think every single time that I personally watch LR play, I just feel like they never really win with Viego, and I don't know if you share the same sentiment, but I feel like Viego WinCon is just such a terrible champion that it's super dependent on getting resets, and that can be extremely difficult. If there's a game to lose, I think it's this one for sure, but Alaric's getting picked.
Oh boy. Does end up flashing away. The damage forwards onto Kevo. He's getting hit by the gun goal! No. And Nemesis gets him with the overload. That's one way of managing it.
And that's going to be Nash start. They've got Rise DPS, they've got Kraken Slayer on Viego and Feast for Baus. And there's no way really to contest, maybe if they played with Poke, but I just don't think it's happening. That's going down extremely quickly, and it's gone. Is this going to be a comeback from Sol Point now for Los Ratones?
I think it might be, and you were saying, look, surely Rich Gang can still play this out with the Smolder, with the stacking.
No ammo, surely, on Twitch, yeah. surely they can end it from this point. I it's at a minute and a half now until Dragon Sol again. Rich Gang.
Somehow, some way, they always find a way. You can never count out Los Ratones. Not in the NLC, not in the Mere Masters, not this whole damn year. That's a third item now for Velia, who has definitely got a hell of a lot of burst. That first auto with the Kraken Slayer, the Sundered Sky, the Titanic Hydra auto reset. He will pop someone if he gets on top of them.
That's a lot of damage. Velia has been extremely strong this game, finding a lot of... And last game as well. Just a tremendous series from the player. Indeed. Kevo, at the very least, has a bunch of wave clears. So not only does he have Poke and his 2-2-5 stacks, they can play for wave clear on this Baron Siege. I think Ozhan could be picked here, but he always has Pillar to be able to pillar off Velia right here.
He's quick enough on that frozen
worst comes to
worst. To get out to safety. Velia might now actually be in danger, but just turns around the damage very happily. Yeah, he hurts quite a lot. Doesn't have to burn his ultimate, just gets to stick around. Into the Harrow path he goes, and Los Ratones now have their increasingly dangerous Cho'Gath stepping on forward. He's got 11 stacks on that big Void monstrosity at this point as well.
Yeah, I mean, the wave clear's coming in. No tier 2s, unless they lose tier 2 mid right here with the 3 grubs on LR, which they have just done, is an ideal situation for Rich Gang, and it looks like they're going to actually lose their bottom tier 2 as well with the threat as they collapse from mid into side lane. And it's a massive injection of gold before the next dragon, but it is 25 seconds until Sol. Will LR be able to spend this gold? It doesn't look like it.
Deadly Flourish into a Spectral Maw potentially. There comes the Subjugate trying to turn it around, but Reckless ready to punish as Ozhan and Alaric split off from the team. Mom is summoned, but I don't know if this PTA meeting is going the way Rich Gang would like it. Over the wall goes Nemesis, and the Trundle is dead again. There will be no smite available for this dragon.
And you can see the value of the Alistair into the Zac. Alaric is trying to engage, but all Reckless has to do is look at where the engage is coming from and cast Q on the Zac mid-leap to cancel it. It's incredibly hard to play. Functions as something like a Poppy right there, and Alaric just cannot find the engage, and then they're stuck in a choke versus the overload bounces and so on. The AoE that comes from Crowny as well as securing the reset. It's just so rough right now, and second dragon goes to LR, and how have we gone from such a stomp for Rich Gang into a 6k gold lead for LR? What a mental turnaround.
It's nearly 5,000 gold they've earned from this Baron. Maybe 4,500 as it drops down a little bit. Production, if you get the chance, I'd love to see the gold graph over time again, because I think it is going to be a bit of a heart attack and a heartbreak for Rich Gang to see. Oh. Yeah.
2,500. Honestly, I thought they were further ahead than that as well. I really did think Richgang was stomping a little bit harder than that as Snap engage. Can they one-shot Trundle here?
I think they can. I think they can. A flash and fall from Reckless looking for the trample passive. Gets it. Getting some more autos down. Another pulverize and goodbye Ozan. Reckless might now be in danger, but he's still got R to press. He gets out to safety. Bounce
onto Baus, not Reckless.
It doesn't quite get there. Tried to find that
Mom misses as well. It's a tragedy.
It gets worse and worse.
It's an absolute tragedy. The body blocking from the Cho'Gath is just so large. I thought maybe, you know, Ozan might be able to get away because a Q was blocked, but oh no, an engage, yeah.
Doesn't lead to too much more than the tier 2 right now. Richgang pull away, but it means they can't defend that outer turret in top lane. And the soul point that has been tantalizingly there for so long for Richgang has fallen away. They are now down 8,000 plus gold. Alaric goes in and immediately loses 80% of his HP bar. The Rupture comes on in. The curtains are called. And the Zac is down into bloblets and flubber. Unfortunately, is not getting a sequel. Velia picks up that body. Can maybe look to dive with the stolen form of the support. Goes elastic slingshotting in. Will try and ult away. He's got a bit deep, actually. And just gets shut down. Matix potentially also looking for a bit more.
Is there a long chase with Pillar here?
Yeah, there is potentially an angle. You just wonder, don't you? Deadly Flourish lands will deny Ozan stepping too far forwards, and Lost Ratones will be able to extricate themselves, even if Ozan is just looking to find something, but they're just not given enough of an angle.
Ozan really wants to find something. You could see with how he's moving. Ozan, can you take the... Oh no! Ozan! What is he doing? Fog, and Ozan doesn't see him, so he's not going to take the blast cone over. I thought maybe he would take the blast cone over and find him. We go back to this replay. That's such a tragedy. Engage, the pillar cancels. But look, the overload actually gets blocked by a Wraith here, I believe.
It is,
yeah, right there. So it doesn't actually finish off Ozan. I think maybe there's an angle to find Reckless, but then the ulti clips onto Baus instead of Reckless there as well, because Baus is just so large. And then Mom comes in and misses as well.
And then we see the Realm Walk play, and you're going, okay, this looks pretty alright. And this gets a bit weird because they pick off Alaric, and then Velia does just go a touch deep. There is the...
Tiny
much
bit.
like... Yeah, look, the Lee syndrome lives on in other champions, guys. It's all I'm saying.
It does. I mean, the way that LR played this slow around that range with Jhin and knockoffs and Cho, it's phenomenal. Honestly, the way they played that and slow played it in general. And just feels like, oh man, from behind, from ahead, does it matter anymore for Lost Ratones? I don't think it does. They're just winning every game.
They always win. They are the Sepulba of the NLC. Feels a bit rude. They're probably a nicer pod racer than that, you know. But there we go. I had to find a Star Wars reference somewhere, mate, and that's the one I found.
I appreciate it. I do appreciate that. Ozan.
They
snap engage onto him. Oh no!
Oh, they do. He's gone. Nemesis picks that one up. Mom is summoned again. Alaric goes a bit further forwards. Haste is absolutely eviscerated. Just about gets away with half his HP bar, but it will come at the cost of Alaric. So 2 people down, and a 3v5 with Baron alive. That is surely another big neutral objective going the way of Lost Ratones.
At least Richgang have Smolder Wave clear. I'm clutching at straws here, Sam. I'm really struggling to find
it's a short straw, mate. That's what they're drawing.
And they have 320 stacks on Smolder at this stage. Can they find a pick on the Baus? Usually the answer to that is no. As Dragon is spawning in 50 seconds and Baus is taking a reset. So everyone in Lost Ratones is going to be on the map for this Drake. Can they keep Kevo alive enough? Can they poke through the short-range composition with this Smolder? It feels like such a tragedy when you had such a free win in your hands. All you had to do was group up as 5 and play with the fact that your composition specifically will carry you through these fights. But it looks like Richgang, you know what, they're not going to let this Dragon go. Matix is actually going to go with his team right now and contest this Drake as they move into bot side jungle.
Feels like a bit of a Hail Mary, but maybe that's what you're relying on, higher powers at this point, because the ones on screen right now seem to all be favoring Lost Ratones, despite the early game, despite the soul point, despite the compositional advantages we've highlighted time and time again. It just doesn't seem to matter. And the pick, the mechanics, the decision-making from Lost Ratones in these later stages have been fantastic. Now they're at soul point as well. It is a 6-straight game, and the last 3 of them have gone Lost Ratones' way.
They have, and now they just have to push through bot, play from mid to bot, and siege that tier 3 tower if they want to. They've got full control of vision around this bot side as well, as the observers are highlighting kindly. And they can just siege without threat of any kind of flank from the Zac. Reckless is going to act like a human ward right here as well, as they get a bunch of uptime on this tower. Cannons aren't going to die to any kind of poke. And that's a tower that melts down extremely quickly. Rich Gang, it feels like they're just struggling to find anything to do.
Reckless goes in. Find the knock of Pneumatics, a deadly flourish after. That's a 4-item Jin. He begins to hurt a lot more at this point as the passive begins to roll. Inhibitor chunked out low. 2 waves begin to look at those Nexus turrets instead, and the inexorable grind towards another NLC finals. Another EMEA Masters appearance. Another trip to a LAN. Their path has been paved in gold all year long. And they'll add another flagstone to it, it feels like, unless Rich Gang can turn this tide around. They've got a 4-item Smolder. Maybe that's the way, but Reckless over the wall! Jumps on the backline and Kevo is the target. In comes Nemesis with the Realm Warp! And he finds another! They will not be denied! No early game failures! No mid-game fumbles will deny them a quadra kill to Nemesis! No Penta this time, but I don't think he'll damn well care, because it is another NLC Finals, and Baus will celebrate in the way he always does, with a fountain laser death. Welcome to Sweden! They're going to another Finals.